Hey everybody, what is going on here? Hexlex got another Master Duel video for you. So, we have something to talk about amidst the new updates today. Hidden among the new packs and bundles, of which there is quite a lot, under here in notifications, it's not really hidden actually, it's right up at the top, but upcoming Forbidden and Limited List update for December 5th. Let's go ahead and check this out and see what we got, and as you can see, pretty impactful list, even though it's only 3 cards. So it seems like Master Duel is doing its typical alternation between big ban list, small ban list, big ban list, small ban list. And even though this is a small ban list in terms of the number of cards banned, it's going to be massive in terms of impact. I'm actually going to start by talking about the Starving Venom Dragon here, because it's probably the one that I need the least amount of time on. This card is going from 1 to 3 because it previously enabled a pendulum-based FTK, but I imagine a lot of the reason why this card is going back up to 3 is that that FTK is, in the grand scheme of things, very easily stopped, right? Like a lot of FTKs, like a lot of, like, you know, board spam strategies in general, it's really susceptible to pretty much every hand trap under the sun, and I would imagine that's why this card is going back up to 3, because Konami doesn't really view any FTK that this card enables as a problem. But moreover, let's go ahead and talk about the cards to be banned. You know what, I'm just going to start with the big one here. Maliss Q Red Ransom going from 3 to 0, which will massively shake up the Maliss deck and how it plays, right? Red Ransom is, of course, an integral part of your combo line, from going from your starters to then, you know, the field spell, or in some cases even the quick play spell, to then make the rest of your combo viable. So not only are they losing on a mid-combo extender, but they're also losing on one of their end board pieces as well, which does actually matter in terms of not only ending on Red Ransom to be able to, you know, bounce as many monsters as possible with something like Firewall Dragon, but also, of course, when it comes to setting up your end board and making that viable. So how good is Maliss going to be after Red Ransom? I gotta be honest, at this moment I'm recording, it's been like less than half an hour since I found this out. And this is one of those changes that I think is going to require extensive testing in order to really see just how impactful this ban is going to be, right? Like, whether or not going straight into Whitebinder is going to be good for you to do as a Maliss player is, like, so hand dependent. There are some hands where you can kind of skip going into Red Ransom altogether, but that usually involves you opening multiple starters in, like, your underground, right? Which is at 1, so yeah, I mean, this is definitely, I feel like this is Konami saying, like, hey, move on from Maliss, it's time to play other decks. The last hits kind of felt like that too, in a way, because they were a lot more severe than anything Maliss ever saw in paper play. By the way, I think the reason that Maliss is so much more powerful in Master Duel and requires so many more hits is due to the nature of the best of 1 format. Maliss is a deck that has traditionally, even on release, not been the best going second, and has more of a difficult time playing into boards, and in that regard, it's going to perform not as well in best of 3, where one of those games is always going to be going second. Furthermore, in best of 3, you have a side deck, and it's really easy to slide a couple of Lancias into your side deck if Maliss is becoming a problem in the meta. Something that wasn't always feasible in best of 1, because you have to account for other decks and the hand traps you need for them as well, right? Now, I touched on earlier that it felt like Konami really just wants to get Maliss out of the way at this point, and I kind of have a crackpot theory here. I think Justice Hunter's cards are coming very, very soon. My reasoning for thinking this is 2 things. This Maliss ban is actually the more minor of them, although it does really seem to me like they're sort of pushing Maliss, aka the quote-unquote old meta, out, and I think there's even a little bit more evidence too with our other ban here. It definitely seems like they are ushering in, you know, the next kind of power creep wave of new meta archetypes, right? Where it was Maliss, Ryzeal, the stuff we've been seeing lately, is of course going to be, as I mentioned before, the Justice Hunters archetype soon enough. It's going to be Yummy, Dracatail, Canine, and then other cards like the new Vanquish Soul support coming in, right? Just other meta decks that are coming up here. That's my theory. The Red Ransom ban is kind of in line with that. The other thing I've also been thinking about lately is just the sheer number of packs and updates we've had lately. To me, it really feels like they're forcing out a bunch of, like, cards that we're kind of waiting for leading up to Justice Hunters really quickly in a relatively short span amount of time, right? So, yeah, those factors kind of make me think Justice Hunter's cards are coming. They're trying to shoo out the old meta, getting the new one in, which is why they've been so heavy on the Maliss hits lately. Not that it's unwarranted, although this is going to be a little bit of a hot take. I think banning Red Ransom was maybe a step too far. I guess if they were going to ban Red Ransom, I don't think there was ever a need to limit Underground. I don't know, it's obviously, Maliss has been far and away the best, or was far and away the best deck on its release, and since then, even after all the limits, it was arguably still the best deck in the entire format. So I'm not saying that Maliss didn't need more hits, and I'm not saying the banning of Red Ransom was unwarranted. I just think that banning Red Ransom combined with all the other limits Maliss took, I think is a bit much. And again, I think if you were gonna ban Red Ransom, then you should have just never limited Underground in the first place, right? Now, I do think that this Red Ransom ban wasn't the most planned thing in the world, right? Just think about it. Like I said before, in Paper Play, Maliss didn't see nearly as heavy of hits, right? It had Dormouse limited, Gold Sark and Allure got limited, and then TCG, Splash Mage, and Link Decoder got banned. But for main deck Maliss hits, for Maliss hits in general, specific to the archetype, it really wasn't that much in the grand scheme of things, at least compared to Master Duel. So what I think happened is, I think that Konami thought that applying all of those limits plus Underground in the couple ban lists ago was gonna fix Maliss, right? Was gonna make it, still viable and good, but not like the best deck in the format. But then of course data shows that Maliss is still the best deck in the format. I feel like the banning of Red Ransom was like not the most planned thing in the world. It just gives me the vibe that they really wanted to oust Maliss and we're like, let's just ban Red Ransom, right? They're like, we've tried limiting Underground in addition to other things. We could try limiting Allure, but that's probably not going to cause Maliss to drop significantly in play or power level. So I think they just really wanted to oust it with Red Ransom. And it's not something we've seen a lot in Master Duel, which is kind of, again, what leads me to think that we might potentially be seeing the Justice Hunters cards sooner rather than later. That's my theory anyway. A game theory, if you will. Alright, the other ban here is Arc Lord Christia, which was actually not being used in Fairy decks, but it was rather being used in Gem Knight. Gem Knight was often cheating this card out with a Bao Aku, which can summon any light monster from the graveyard. So basically you would get this into your graveyard throughout the course of your combo, use your Fiendsmith stuff to make a Bao Aku, and then you could use a Bao Aku to summon this from your graveyard. Obviously, saying that neither player can special summon and having such a high statted body and being part of an established end board made the Arc Lord Christia rather difficult for your opponent to out. Again, when they can't special summon monsters, even more so. So this is definitely being banned as part of a hit to Gem Knight. It's also, I guess, kind of another one of those like Albion Sanctifier hits, as in this is one of those cards that Albion Sanctifier would summon out occasionally, but it's typically still even nowadays other stuff other than Christia. But I think this is mainly a Gem Knight hit. Which, I mean, wasn't unwarranted. Gem Knight was definitely one of the better decks of the format. Like, bordering on tier 1, I called it upper tier 2 in my tier list video, and I'm gonna maintain that. I will say that after the banning of Christia, I think the power level of Fiendsmith Gem Knight is gonna go down. I think it's probably still a tier 2 deck, but, because it didn't necessarily always rely on making Christia, but it was a pretty easy way to ensure that your turn 1 end board was gonna stop your opponent from anything vacant, right? So, yeah, the Fiendsmith Gem Knight deck definitely gets a lot weaker. And as I kind of alluded to before, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think this ban is undeserved, nor do I think the Red Ransom ban is undeserved, but it really feels to me like Konami's looking at like, okay, Maliss, Gem Knight, not in the shop anymore, and we have other new exciting decks, Justice Hunters coming. We gotta make sure that people are gonna, not hang on to these pet decks too much if they happen to be pet decks for them, and make sure that they're buying the new support. So, yeah, I think, I really do think this was part of the initiative to push new cards a little bit more so than balance the meta. I feel like, I don't know, it's really easy to speculate, right? Either way, I do think that Arc Lord Christia being banned is a great call, not just for currently Fiendsmith Gem Knights, but as I alluded to with Branded earlier, there are any number of ways to potentially abuse this card, right? The fact that it can be special summoned just makes that true. I think that's something we've seen recurring quite a bit in Floodgate monsters, and I think it's kind of shown us that if you are going to print a Floodgate monster, you got to make it so that it can't be special summoned. That way it can't really be cheated out into play, you know, with various combo lines, right? If you're going to make a Floodgate monster, if that's something you're interested in doing. But yeah, no, Christia ban, not undeserved. Definitely a pretty significant hit to Gym Knights. Won't make Fiendsmith Gym Knight an unplayable variant, but it does cause it to lose quite a bit of its oomph. And that's pretty much it. I mean, like I said, it's a very small ban list, only 3 cards. So as far as the meta impact this will have, the obvious meta impact is that Maliss will no longer be a tier 1 deck. I suspect Maliss, in terms of its power level, will probably still be tiered. Now, granted, again, this ban list was just announced less than half an hour ago at the time of recording this, so I don't know exactly what a Maliss list without Red Ransom looks like in terms of how it's built or how it plays. But just in terms of what Maliss can do, I think even if it's not, you know, feasible as its standalone deck, you could combine it with something like Math Mech, and I think that would still probably be at least a tier 3 deck. So I would say that moving forward, I would guess Maliss is probably going to be at least a tier 3 deck. I would be very surprised if it fell off into rogue status in terms of power level. Now, in terms of popularity, I imagine it'll fall off really, really hard. I imagine people are not going to want to touch Maliss with a 10-foot pole. Not only are a lot of people already kind of getting sick of the deck, even those who are playing it, but again, you know, there's a lot less incentive to be playing Maliss. So you're not going to be seeing Maliss on ladder, you know, pretty soon after the ban list takes effect. It'll be pretty barren in terms of like who's all playing Maliss, but I suspect that this is definitely still at the very least a tier 3 deck moving forward. For Fiendsmith Gym Knight, like I said, I think that's probably still a tier 2 deck, but rather than towards the top of tier 2, it's going to slide a little bit lower down. Because there were quite a bit of builds that were not playing Christia, but like I said, it is a very big part of the end board, especially for tournament builds. Those were almost always on Christia. So yeah, I don't know. Obviously, Gym Knight is still a good deck, don't get me wrong, and Fiendsmith Gym Knight is still a solid variant. You just are going to have a much less powerful end board. And finally, in terms of Starving Venom Dragon, I really don't expect this to have any major impact at all going from 1 to 3. But definitely let me know what you think in the comments below of these hits and what they could possibly mean for Master Duel's future. As always, thank you so very much for watching and supporting. Hugely appreciate you. Let's go ahead and move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.